Cool. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Media Curious. I'm still Karen Kring. And today we're welcoming Joe Coughlin, co-founder of The Record North Shore, a nonprofit online news outlet serving Chicago's North Shore communities, specifically Wilmette, Winnetka, Glencoe, Northfield, and Kenilworth. Hey, Joe.
Hey, how you doing? Thanks
I'm
for having
good.
me.
Glad you're here.
Me too.
So congratulations on being for the record being recognized by the Chicago Headline Club with a Peter Lisagor Award for Best Startup for 2020.
Thank you very much. That was kind of a surprise. We started in October, so we didn't enter many contests. We didn't have much to go on, but that was one I thought we fit the bill, so it was great.
Yeah, so that's cool. You started in the spring of 2020. You were the publisher of 22nd Century Media when the owners decided to fold.
Yeah.
Soon after. Yep.
Sure was. That's accurate.
Yep. Soon after that, you and Martin Carlino and Megan Bernhardt founded The Record North Shore. What inspired you to take on becoming entrepreneurs?
Yeah. Entrepreneurs, obviously I guess that's by definition, that's accurate, but we were just really wanting to serve the readers we just abandoned. We'd been doing it for so long. And then in the heart of, maybe the biggest story of our lifetime and the biggest news arc since we've been alive, we folded our news company. And our readers needed reliable, responsible news, not just about that, but soon after that, there was the social unrest and the protest marches and a lot of misinformation there too. And so we hustled as much as we could to get back, and that was our goal, to put reliable information back in front of them, the people that grew to trust us for so long and were left really without anything to go to in these trying times. So that was our goal, and that's what really sparked it. We were really driven to get back in the marketplace pretty quickly.
Early in the company's founding, you had a Kickstarter campaign. Tell us more about that.
Well, that's what brought us to life. We started with $0. We're three journalists, so we kind of took a page out of the Block Club Chicago playbook. We talked to them pretty extensively, and it was something we thought that could get us off the ground. And then we had a plan for other things, but that we needed to show that the community could support us and wanted to support us. And so we did that Kickstarter, and we raised, I believe, 59,000, maybe 58 and change, to get us off the ground and to get us rolling. And it was a really kind of heartwarming, but also necessary part of our story.
How has your business model evolved after that? What other kinds of funding are you looking at?
Kind of all avenues, and that was what really drew us on the business side. On the journalism side, it was all about integrity with the nonprofit model. That was huge for us. But on the business side, we were really interested in kind of that. My favorite term for it is revenue promiscuity. Like, you're able to take revenue from a ton of different areas to fund your business. And, so our biggest one by far has been individual donations, just people of the community. And otherwise, we've got some sponsors from local businesses, which have believed in our mission, which we've been very grateful for. And we've applied for grants, and we've gotten some specialty grants for some of our programming. Like, we have a youth workshop coming up, and we have a intern that's funded as well. So really, those are the three main ones so far, as well as I'm missing a big one. I know I am, but individual donations is by far our big one.
Okay. Are you taking ads?
Not ads, no. So it's sponsors so far. We've walked that line pretty closely. So our website, our daily news site, is free of advertisements. The sponsorships are on our weekly newsletter, and it's kind of just at the top and in the middle, and it's really just their logo and kind of says, we believe in you, and we're local too. So we call them sponsor. I guess there is a thin line there because it is showcasing their business, and it's kind of just like a partnership.
Sure. WBEZ kind of skirts that line too with, right. They won't do ads, but they will do mentions. and
Right.
they'll say presented by, and then they'll sometimes expand on something that their sponsor is working on, or elaborate more on them. What are your reflections now that you have almost for a year been running and financing your own news organization? What's your reflections on the news business?
As a whole, you know, that a lot of people need responsible news. A lot of people, and we've really focused on the suburbs because, one, that's where we were serving. That's who we were serving, and I'm from the suburbs, and so are Martin and Megan. So it's kind of personal for us in that respect. That we feel very strongly, and I won't speak for Martin or Megan, but I do, that a lot of this misinformation and a lot of these, it's really torn apart neighbors, and it's really hurt communities because we're believing a different set of facts across a fence, and it's really an industry problem more than it is a people problem, if you ask me. A lot of disingenuous news outlets trying to get in the marketplace and serve irresponsible news, and doing so quite effectively. So I think there's a need for responsible news outlets to get in and make some noise and make their presence felt with real, genuine news. So that's my overall reflection on the industry as a suburbanite and a cynic. But just for us as a whole, looking back on everything, we started with 3 journalists, 3 founders, and that has been great for our editorial backbone and just who we are. But I think if I had advice for people starting up, you need a development person on your side, somebody to really develop on the funding side, develop on the strategy side. We have 3 people whose specialty is communication and working with news, working with sources and things like that, and then have very little experience building revenue. So it's important to have that strategic person on your side. And maybe we just kind of worked too quickly, but we did want to get back. So kind of a catch-22 there, but I would give that advice. But it's been fun. I'm happy to be back and be doing the news.
Cool. Do you expect that the 4th person on your staff besides the intern will be a development person?
Yeah, I would say so. Once we get the funding to support something like that, that's very high on our priority list.
Just to get into the mechanics of how your news outlet runs, so civilians can better understand how you work. How do you and your team decide what to cover, and what is the process like from idea to finished piece?
Oh, that's a great question. First, we've been doing it for a while. I've been in community news in the suburbs for 15 years, and Megan and Marty have been in the North Shore for a combined 10 other than that. So we had a great idea of what was important to the communities up here. And that is, I think, where you start. If you were starting from scratch with no experience in an area, I would hope that you survey the community, in whether it's a formal survey or whether it's just getting around in the community and talking to people, which is hard in a pandemic, of course, but seeing what's important to them. You want your news needs to reflect the community that you cover, in all aspects, and needs to represent them well. So from idea, we start with our weekly meetings are a formal way of that idea, but really we're talking nonstop. And whether we see a seed of an idea in an email from somebody, or talking with one source, or being at a sporting event and overhearing some parents, like that's where all this comes from. Being in the community and really day-to-day reporting on a beat is where you get most of your stories after you start. Some things are obvious, high-level violent crime, public safety awareness, things like that.
City council meetings.
And that's what I was going to say. So at
sports
the level, we're very tuned into local government. So city council, village boards, park board, we're very in tune with township boards. That's really our specialty. And Martin Carlino takes the lead on that. He's there. And a lot of time there means watching videos currently, but the recordings of them. But that's where your tax dollars are going, what you're funding, what your public officials are doing, and what they're spending their time on is really important to you. And we'll bring that to you and serve it to you. So, and then, how that moves on is, we start reporting on it, we source it, and we have a really strong, like I said, editorial backbone. So when it gets to print, we're very, very proud of the eyes that have looked on it, and we're very confident in it.
So when you say to print, are you guys doing a print piece, or is it all online?
I guess that's an old habit. I should say it's a publication.
To publication, right? Yeah, no.
But I hope we do at some point. I think I love print. I hope that's not too much of a personal bias, but I know up here, at least in a lot of suburban communities, really enjoy getting that, whether it's weekly or monthly, and flipping through it and catching some highlights. I think that's why our weekly newsletter is so popular, because people can't maybe catch up on everything every day. And so Thursday mornings, they got kind of a rundown. But a print product, I'd love to do it. Just got to make sense.
Sure. You mentioned the pandemic. So Martin's not going to city council meetings. He's needing to do that on Zoom and via recordings. Mm-hmm. How else has the pandemic affected the way you guys do your coverage?
Even the feature pieces and the profiles, where you would go to someone's house or you would meet them at a coffee shop and you'd really talk and go real in depth, and you'd be able to describe this beautiful, elaborate scene and really bring the imagery to a reader. That's been lessened in a lot of respects during COVID. We've had to find some different avenues for storytelling for those profiles and features that are so important to bring vibrancy and color to a community news outlet. So that's been a big change. Not being at those meetings, the event coverage, and a lot of times that's really beautiful photo spreads and things like that, and maybe a short recap, but not just being there. That's, like I said, that's where we collect a lot of our stories. That's where we're able to talk with the community and find out what's important to them. Like, there's no parades, there's no shop with a cop type of things that are so fun for our community. So that coverage has really been lacking. And that adds to the diversity of your coverage. But luckily, the quantity hasn't been any less because of COVID, and everything else has really provided us plenty to report on.
Well, it's good to hear that you're still able to keep up the level of coverage that you want, even though you can't be there in person. But I expect when we're able to be out and about more, that the nature of coverage, I'm betting, will change a little bit. More people will be coming to you with ideas, and you won't have to work so hard to go out and find them. There's a relationship that is built between a news outlet and its readership or viewership. What do you think holding up your end of the relationship means? What do you feel you owe the readers?
I mean, it's all for them. And I think that's what really, that's the number one thing that drew us to nonprofit journalism. And it's really built-in integrity and built-in community first journalism. Mm-hmm. We do what we do so they can feel that they know what's going on. Authentic coverage, genuine coverage, responsible coverage, and you're being thoughtful and caring about the community. You're there every day, so your coverage not only reflects them and represents them, but also it cares for them. We're not forcing trauma upon them just to get a headline. We're not embarrassing them because it's going to be a funny thing that going to get a lot of clicks, and I'm so happy that that's a very, trend, for lack of a better word, in the current newscape, is getting rid of mugshots, getting rid of unnecessary crime coverage just so you can, get a splashy headline. I think that's so important for the thought and care of community, because we're all in this together, and there's certain things that you can do, but you don't have to do. If someone doesn't want their photo taken, sure, we can, but do we have to? No. Mm-hmm. Why would we? It's their community. So I think we owe a lot to the readers. I think we're here to represent them, and every complaint they come with matters, and we need to take seriously.
How would you measure your success? I mean, you're still putting out news, and you guys are still getting paid, and that's one measure of success. But outside of keeping the lights on, how do you measure success based on what your goals are?
Well, we have metrics that we'd like to hit in terms of subscriptions. That was the big one, by the way. I forgot way at the beginning of this that we do have subscriptions, which is a nice portion of revenue, kind of in line with individual donations. But to see our readership in terms of website traffic, in terms of our newsletters recipients, how that grows, just that we're getting out there in the community and then people are seeing us. I think because we're digital only, and we used to be at our previous company a paper and digital, that a lot of people don't even know we're here yet, I really think. So I think still that outreach piece, which has been so difficult during COVID, is something we need to do better at, but it is growing week by week. We're seeing higher traffic numbers and more circulation with certain stories and things like that. So that's how we measure a lot of our success, is how, and with that comes people coming to you with story ideas. I think that's something that's hard to measure in terms of, okay, we got 3 leads this week versus 7, and that's going to fluctuate so hard. It's hard to measure, but you kind of get a feeling for people trust you more, and people are coming to you with their ideas and for you to explore them. I think that's a good measure of success for a local outlet.
Let's get a little personal. When did you decide journalism was the life for you?
College, freshman year, English class.
Yeah.
I was in a composition class, and I liked sports a lot throughout my life. Once I retired in high school from competitive play, I just liked hanging around them and being in that atmosphere. So in my college composition class, I remember I got a C in a paper, and in high school, I never got a C on a writing paper in my life. So I'm like, yo, teach, what's this about? And he's like, Joe, I could tell, like, not every student is measured on the same scale here, at least in my class. I could tell you phone this one in. Did you write it, the last couple of days? Like, you have skills, you can do better than this. And I was like, I get you. Like, I liked that. I liked kind of that. He was editing to who I was rather than editing on a template. And so that intrigued me with editing, and that intrigued me with, I can be a writer because I can do better. So that led to kind of sports journalism. That's where I started. So I worked for the local, I went to the University of Illinois, and I worked for the paper there and the paper in town, and really kind of fell in love with the newsroom, the mystique of the newsroom, and kind of the deadlines and the efficiency of it all, and the chaos of it all was really fun to deal with. And it kind of had that coaching atmosphere from your editors when you're that young. So it was kind of like sports, where you need to get better and better and better. You need to get up here. Let's go. I appreciated that and respected that on a coaching constructive criticism level. So kind of fell for it there. And then out of college, I fell into community news almost by accident, because I could, obviously at college, they teach you all aspects of journalism. And they needed me to do that for 22nd Century Media way back when I was 25, 23, 24. So I just started to really enjoy it, and I could tell a story, and that was fun for me.
Was there ever a time in your career where you've said to yourself, this is why I do this job. This is why I'm so glad I'm here to get this story, or to see this happen and be a witness to this?
Oh, you're going to make me get emotional now. There's been a couple, when you cover community news as long as I have, there's people that really, there's stories out there that really touch you. So I got a couple. One when I was really early journalist, and so I'll stay off that because that was more of a, okay, I like this. But one that, why I do this, it's a fun one. So of our 15 papers at the former company, we covered New Lenox, Illinois, which was my hometown. Mm-hmm. I was one of the first editors there, but luckily I moved out of that. It's really tough being editor of your hometown paper. There's so much emotion to it, but I was in, an editorial management role. So the local ice cream shop was at risk of closing. The owners wanted out. They've been the owners forever, and no one was kind of biting on the idea. So I wrote this editorial about how a community like New Lenox and a lot of small town communities are kind of built up on these hokey places like Ranch Frosties, that's been there for 40 years, or an auto shop or a bakery, things like that. That's what really props up these, gives them color, makes them really special to people. So I wrote an editorial about that, and then it got bought up the next week. And lady wrote me and said that I was her inspiration. So then I ran around New Lenox and held a sign saying I saved Ranch Frosty. No, but it's so funny. I led that. It was a column, so I led the column by saying I used to go as a kid, and the clerks would all wear Ranch Frosty shirts, and I always wanted one, and they never would sell them, and now they sell them. So now I got one. That was really like, that's helping people, helping local business that are worthy of the help. Like, that's why we're here. We have the power to do that. We have the power to affect change. If something as simple or as non-consequential in the larger scheme as that, or an investigative story that we did plenty of times from schools to village government, holding them to account. But that one was really special to me since I'm from New Lenox.
Cool. If you weren't doing journalism, what do you think you'd be doing?
Well, if I didn't get injured, I'd probably be playing professional baseball.
Of course.
Of course, right? You can
Of
see
course.
it. What would I be doing? I went to college to be a teacher. I'm a family. My family is full of teachers, from everything from special education to grade school to high school to administration. So that's what I thought I wanted to do. And so I think I'd be good at it. I think I kind of have the upbringing to do that, and I enjoy coaching. But I got out of it because I think I wanted to coach more than I wanted to teach. And I didn't know if that was fair to kids. So I was like, okay, I like writing too. Let's see where that takes me. But I thought about getting, helping out in education in certain ways. I think I might be in that field.
Who would you say has influenced you as a journalist and a publisher?
As a journalist, first getting into it, it was Jim Rossow, who is now he's the executive editor, kind of the guy in charge over at the News Gazette in Champaign-Urbana. But back then he was my sports editor. So he was the one who was like, I'd bring him copy, and I was 19 years old, 20 years old. Know this, here we go. This, and it's so quick, and just, the first time it happens, you feel kind of sheepish, but then you're like, okay, starting to understand. And he was very good at it. And their sports section has been one of the best for decades. So I would say him, and kind of, bringing me up as a journalist, and an inspiration there. As a publisher, that was something I kind of worked up to. So other leaders in my life, because it was a lot of coaching young journalists as the publisher role. So my high school volleyball coach, Dawn Murphy, was a big influence on me, and just how she treated people, and my mother and father and how they treated us growing up. If we're being completely honest, in personal interaction with other publishers, I didn't have much. I kind of grew through 22nd Century Media. So I'd have to give a lot of credit to people I worked with, like Heather Worthen, who was our first managing editor. Then she moved to the events side with 22nd Century Media as a leader in that industry. So I guess a conglomeration of people.
Cool. Anything more we should talk about? Do you want to give any shout outs?
I couldn't have done this without Megan and Martin. I think, it may have been my idea, but I think maybe they were waiting for my idea. I think we got, let go all at once. I mean, it was over in a flash, and, we took a week to digest, week or two, I'm sure, and figured things out. A very, very challenging and confusing time. And then, I just texted Megan, and I'm like, I'm thinking about doing this. Am I crazy? Can we do this? I think pretty quickly she, encouraged me, whether she tempered her enthusiasm or not. I was led to believe we're going to do this. We're going to do it together. Martin was probably a week later, once we figured we needed 3 people and wanted Martin on board. And just a big shout out to them because they're co-founders of the records. We're equal in all decisions here at that level. So yeah, couldn't do it without them.
Well, congratulations for putting together such a tight team.
Thank you.
Again, on your recognition through the Headline Club on
Yeah.
Best Startup.
Yeah,
And I look forward to seeing what your next year is going to bring you.
Me too. Who knows? We got big ideas, and hopefully that we're able to pull them off.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you, Karen.
Okay, we're out. Thanks again for being media curious. If you'd like to get in touch with me or with Joe Coughlin, here's our contact information. It's also in the info box below. Special shout out now to Media Curious collaborators. The oh so talented Jane Ricciardi does post-production work on each episode. The Kimtastic word nerd Kim O'Brien edits all the notes that go with each episode. Can TV cablecasts each episode periodically on Channel 27. And the Event Tours and ChicagoPublicSquare.com help talk up the series. If you like what we're doing here, please comment, like, subscribe, or share. If you'd like to be a sponsor, let's talk soon. If you partner with students at all, we have a youth in journalism workshop this summer. You can check it out on our site. That's free to apply.